Hello everyone and welcome to another box office video. Today I'm going to be covering the Thanksgiving weekend, which is traditionally a pretty important weekend here. Usually there's not a whole lot going on for the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving before we get into some of the holiday movies coming out. So this is one big final push for the theaters before Christmas. Usually you see theaters perform really well across the country, people going with their families to go see films, and it looked like that was no different this year. I got a couple of things I really want to cover here, some key movies, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, I'm more of a give me the bad news before the good kind of a person, so let's cover the flops. And those were two of the new releases this weekend, Strange World and Devotion. Now, if you don't know what Strange World is, you're not alone. This was a Disney animated picture made for anywhere between $130 to $180 million that they barely marketed out there. I swear, I think I got maybe one YouTube ad through the entire rollout for this over the last month, and before that I had seen absolutely nothing for this film. I assumed that they were just going to dump it onto Disney Plus, but nope, they went ahead with a wide release for this. Over the 5-day weekend, this movie only made $18.5 million. This is compared to Encanto from last year that made $40 million over the 5-day weekend. And the reason why this happened, I think they just didn't market this movie out there. I have no idea what Disney was thinking. This is a big budget animated picture. You have families going out to the movie theater over Thanksgiving weekend, and Encanto performed well last year whenever, theaters were still coming back. Why would you not market this out there? It's not like it was poorly received. It has like a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. I've heard it's kind of boring, but it's not like it's critically panned by any means. So I don't know who dropped the ball here. Well, I mean, it was marketing, but I don't know who in the decision-making process is to blame for this massive flop. And there are articles being written now about how this movie is catastrophic for Disney, and I have to agree. Let's go with the bare minimum budget here. Let's say that they made this for $135 million. Now, the budget for marketing here, I think it might literally be maybe $20 million, $30 million, which is obscenely low for a movie like this. Usually the marketing will be about half of the production budget, so they should have made, on a budget of $135 million, they should have budgeted out approximately $60 to $70 million for marketing. Let's say they spent $20 to $30 million. A third of the revenue earned from this movie is going to go to the theaters approximately. So this movie has to make, let's do some quick math here. Lowballing it with a $20 million marketing budget. This movie has to make probably $180, $200 million to be profitable, bare minimum. No chance it gets that. This is going to lose Disney so much money, and at a time that is not very convenient for the studio. They just had the whole CEO shakeup. I think that they are in good hands for the time being with Bob Iger, but it seems like this movie just got lost in the shuffle. It's probably going to reflect on the Disney stock, unfortunately, and it is another L for the studio so far this year. And also, I hate the fact that I just said that this is an L. I hate that I use that terminology, but just please keep rolling with me here. This is coming on the heels of Lightyear, which did not perform well earlier in the summer. And that movie made way more than this one. So yeah, I think that this thing is going to get put on Disney Plus within a month. The only reason I think that it'll stay in theaters is because nothing is getting released over the next 2 weeks, or it's, very, very small scale movies that aren't really a threat to this. There's not any family movies being released. So I think it's going to stay put in theaters for a little bit, but expect this on your TVs by Christmas. Then the other movie that didn't perform well was Devotion, the World War II, I guess, plane movie. I really don't know a whole lot about it. I think I watched a trailer. It stars Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell, and it was made for $90 million over the 5-day weekend and only made $9 million, which is strange because it performed about to expectations. It underperformed for sure, but I think it was projected to be somewhere around $10 million, but what was going on with this movie? If the budget is $90 million, release it in a time of year where you think it's going to make money. I feel like it should have made money over Thanksgiving weekend. I mean, it's a World War II movie. You have family coming into town, something to take your uncle, your grandpa to. Someone is going to care about this film. And at the end of the day, it just made $10 million. That's not good at all. And I would have thought with maybe the popularity of Top Gun Maverick being released earlier this year that people would want to go back to the theaters to go see another plane movie. I mean, it even has one of the stars of Top Gun Maverick in it with Glenn Powell. But it just doesn't seem to have rung home with audiences, which is surprising because it's pretty well received. I think it's like in the high 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. It comes in at number 4 over the weekend box office, but still $9 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving holiday weekend. That's not by any means good. So those are the two big flops for the weekend. So let's get into the good part here. Let's talk Glass Onion and Wakanda Forever. Wakanda Forever performed really, really well over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. It grossed $64 million over the 5-day. And then if we just summed it down to the 3-day holiday weekend, it only dropped 31%, which is outstanding for a movie of this scale. I believe on the 3-day holiday weekend, it made $45 million. So this movie worldwide now has made $675 million. We're in the green in terms of profitability for Marvel and Disney. Huge, huge, huge win here with Wakanda Forever. And at this point, I know last week I speculated about whether or not it's going to hit $1 billion. I think at this rate, it's still going to be really close, but I would put it over the top here and say that it's going to make $1 billion at this point. Because if its weekend by weekend drop continues to be this low, it's going to rack up a ton of money. And like I said earlier in the video, not a whole lot is coming out here in the next few weeks. So it has nothing but room here. The only thing that I think could have taken audiences away is Glass Onion at this point. They're two very different movies, but Glass Onion is just the biggest new movie out right now. But Glass Onion was only out over this weekend. It's going to Netflix next month. So Wakanda Forever has next to near no competition, which I'm happy to see. You know, I was pretty mixed on the movie, but I like the franchise and I want it to continue, and I like the path that they laid out in this movie. So as long as it's making money, I'm a happy guy. But let's get into the huge win over the weekend, Glass Onion. Now, for those of you that don't know, this was the sequel to Knives Out. After Knives Out was released in 2019, Netflix purchased the rights to produce 2 sequels for a obscene amount of money. I think it was like over $400 million. And they decided to do something different with this movie. They've done limited releases before over the course of one weekend in only like 40 or 50 cities for some of their movies in the past. I remember I saw Don't Look Up in a theater last year, but this was going to be their big experiment about how this movie would perform in just under 700 screens over the course of a holiday weekend. So it was only going to be in theaters over this weekend, and now it's nowhere. You can't find it anywhere. They're going to put it on Netflix next month. They're testing it out to see if that model works better for them because they need to start seeing some money from their investments here whenever it comes to their production. And this thing did fantastic over the 5-day holiday weekend. It racked in $13.2 million. That puts it at number 3 over the weekend. So you're probably thinking, like, why is that a big deal? Well, let me tell you, their per theater average was over $13,000. For context, the next closest was Wakanda Forever at $6,000. So if this movie was playing somewhere, people flocked to the theaters. People wanted to go see the sequel. I know whenever I saw it this weekend, it was almost a packed house. So this movie kind of proves the obvious for Netflix that if you release a movie into theaters, you're gonna make money off of it. I'll be really curious to see if their subscriber count grows whenever that ends up getting put onto the streaming network, because Glass Onion has been really well received by audiences and critics. It seems like it's just receiving acclaim across the board here. It makes a ton of money here. So now you have all of that audience that went to go see it over this holiday weekend telling their friends that they gotta watch Glass Onion whenever it hits Netflix. If they're not subscribed, they're gonna subscribe for it. Maybe, we'll see. I think that it's gonna end up being really positive for Netflix, and this is gonna end up being really important for Netflix and their trajectory for growth in the future. This is not the last time Netflix releases a movie into theaters, and I think if they have any regrets, it's that they didn't keep it in theaters for longer. I think it was Variety or the Wall Street Journal, someone did an article that said that by not having this in more theaters, because it was only in 700. If it was a true wide release, it would have been in over 3,000 for sure. By not doing that, Netflix left almost $50 million on the table just by not releasing this wide. Because think about it, you have it in just under 700 theaters. There are tons of markets that you didn't release this in. And yeah, your per theater average is probably going to go down because you're in 3,000 theaters, but you're in more markets, so you're going to make a lot more money there. Just naturally, you have more theaters playing the movie, you're going to make more money. And this is just marketing for them now, saying, oh, you like Glass Onion? Perfect. You can watch it on Netflix next month. You can show your family. Oh, you miss Glass Onion? Well, just subscribe to Netflix. You'll be able to see it in no time. I really hope this movie doesn't lose steam in the meantime, because I want to see Netflix do this more. Huge win for Glass Onion. I personally love the movie. I'm going to have a review up here pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, looking on the grand scale of the weekend, it was down $9 million from last year, and I'm going to put most of the blame on that toward Disney, because if they had marketed Strange World a little bit better, they would have made more money there. They would have for sure leaped over what they did last year, or I guess what just the box office in general did last year. And it's really unfortunate too, because theaters are going to take a massive hit over the next couple weekends. We don't have anything coming out until Avatar: The Way of Water. Over the next 2 weekends, we have Violent Night, which is like the Officer Hopper Santa movie that's not for kids at all. Then you have Empire of Light, Sam Mendes' new movie that's not being well received, and it's more of an awards darling kind of movie too, so I wouldn't expect this to come in and make $40 million by any means. Then you have Darren Aronofsky's The Whale, which is supposed to propel Brendan Fraser towards an Oscar win, and that by no means is a blockbuster either. The theater chains are really going to be hurting. Wakanda Forever is probably going to be #1 over the next couple weekends. I bet they really wish they had Glass Onion out there right now, or that maybe Disney had promoted Strange World a little bit, because yeah, it's not going to be great for theaters over the next couple weeks. But Avatar 2's coming out, so that should provide some much needed relief before Christmas. But that's everything I had to say about the box office report this weekend. Thank you so much for watching this video up to this point, and if you like this content, subscribe for more. See you next time.